Hello everyone, this here is Tracilyn, and I'm also known as VCAT. I have been sharing since 2012, 2013, my life story, pretty much since the day I was born in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, what I went through throughout my childhood years, my transgendered walk, my spiritual walk, and I'm hoping to have closure with the things that have happened to me since busking, doing street performances, which started in 2012 after a trip to Las Vegas. It's important for me right now that I rush through this because it's only a little bit of things, and I'm looking forward to going to meet another transsexual female. I have been looking to connect with other transsexual females that are passionate about the freedom and equality for specifically transsexual females. I relate most to them. I believe that it's for all people, but my heart is really for the transsexual females because of what I endured throughout my life. With that being said, hopefully I didn't upset you by saying that, but that's what I'm about, and I also love to rock and roll. Nevertheless, here we go. The goal is to hold fast. I'm going to have new updates coming in the very near future. I am in the process of moving. How? I don't know how yet. I am a victim of somebody who has watched people like Joel Osteen, Joyce Myers, other televangelists, which I will explain in time. And in the process of applying their teachings into my life, it kept me in some pretty horrific situations, led me to almost death. It had me bedridden to the point that I was holding my breath and trying to shut down my heart, okay? Because their teachings were not teachings of intelligence. It was not leading me into a healing. It was leading me into a very painful death. And I did have an almost near-death experience. My hope is that those videotapes in the future will be gotten to Joyce Myers Ministry and Joel Osteen Ministry so they can really find out what it's like for somebody who's on the other side of the television or the screen of their teachings and applying their teachings to their life. In my opinion, when a speaker speaks on television, and even myself now, it should be a warning to the viewer that this is of my perspective, okay, with what I'm going through. We are nothing that we have been taught, maybe some of the things, but I'm learning more every day that our minds are operating much like a computer, and they're programmed since the day we step into the school, and that's what television is usually used for, which keeps us lost and distracted in most situations. It takes us away from our own personal truths and the maximization of life for us individually and in unity as an entire country. With that being said, that's an overload, but I am looking on moving out, maybe not of Dayton, but out of the area. I fell into a desperate situation where I had limited freedom and the right as a citizen of the United States to actually, or the blessing, I lacked the blessing too, of being able to be with somebody who actually cared for me during my time of weakness and supported me and guided me into at least a beautiful little starter home. Okay? In my opinion, I got leftovers, sloppy leftovers. There's a lot of lack of consideration for people who fall on hard times. The only reason I fell on hard times is because I believed that other people had the answers. People like Joyce Myers, people like Joel Osteen, people like Dave Ashcraft and LCBC at the church that I went to. I can't wait to explain to you what I've learned. God is real. And if you look into Scripture, you'll find out that every word is God. And I don't want to get too lost in that right now, but just know that your belief system is what is it's really resulting into your outwardly life and the people, the relationships you're in, the circumstances you're in. And it can all be realigned with your belief, but it starts with your belief system. And if you keep falling into agreement with other people about what God is not, the idea of life, what one should do, what one should not do, you're going to keep on living a life that is not your own. The life that God has for all of us is inside our head. It's in our brain. And if you can imagine it, you can dream it, you can create a beautiful picture and a vision, and you can actually live it. Now, I'm only getting started with all this information that took me years because my teachers didn't explain the way I can explain. Okay? Our teachers tiptoe around everything. They keep you in their churches when technically they should have you come and go very quickly. And you can tell that by just listening to the teachings of Jesus Christ when he spoke and then he walked away. And he said, if you believe, pick up your mat and walk, etc., etc. Nevertheless, Tracilyn would pretty much not necessarily say that because you need support. Because chances are you are living a very worldly self. You've been told who you are and what you should be, anything from your sex, who you should have sex with, your name, that this is your family. We can go on, but you've been told this is the way you should remain disciplined in your life. Well, I'm here to tell you it is much different than that. Okay? Maybe for some of us, but I would say there's a lot of us that are in bondage to that, and then we end up feeling suicidal. We want to kill ourselves. We don't like people. We don't get along with people. So, I got a lot to share with you. Right now, we're talking about, that's coming up. It's coming up very soon. Within the next month or so, I'm going to be sharing with you my journey in getting out of a home that I'm in. Right now, I feel kind of like a prisoner. Like on probation or something. I have to be home. I can only come and go. I don't have come and go as you need to parking. There's very limitations because the people whose idea was to transition it into apartment building for people who need a place to live, which I am one of those, and have automobiles. I live in Ohio. You need to have an automobile. Okay? You need to if you're going to continue to go through life. I mean, if not, if you're just laying there to die, that's different. Now, with that being said, with limited come and go as you need to parking, it puts a great deal of stress into your life. They did not place the building in a manner that, in my opinion, was appropriate. They didn't take the appropriate steps and measures in securing an enjoyable environment to live in, if only for the reason that come and go as you need to parking doesn't come without a penalty to you if you end up coming back and the parking lot is full. It's time for me to not be kicked out, not have to move, not leave in anger, but it's time for me to move forward, that I can have at least a little home where I have freedom to come and go as I need to. I can't wait to touch base with that and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, when I came here to Ohio in 2010, I was living with a transsexual female by the name of Catherine. Some of you may know her. I don't want to give you the last name, but she was an absolutely gorgeous person. And I'm very thankful that she was in my life at that time. She had a 2-bedroom apartment just outside of this inner city, and I was pretty much bedridden because I was traumatized because I had false prostitution charges put on me by York County police officers. And I've already explained that in my life story. With that being said, then I was traumatized while I was on probation in Connecticut, where what I believe was undercover policemen who confiscated all of my things that I needed in order to survive. My business, the things I used to operate my business with. With that being said, even my computer was taken from me. When I came out here, I didn't have much of anything. I had myself. That is it. I got stuck living in the ideas of others, and if I didn't submit to their idea of life, I was asked to leave or told to leave, which was even worse. There was no two week or month notice. There was move today. Imagine having to go through that. Our system is not set up to help people, because if it was, then they would raise awareness and they would teach your kids while they were still in school, if you ever become homeless, this is the process that we would appreciate you go through. Most people will turn their back on you. Okay? That's a shame. But it's very true. And that's why a lot of people perish and die or kill themselves. And they'll be laying on beaches like out in LA infested with lice, and then people will come by and tell you that they did it to themselves. They didn't do it to themselves. Nobody would do that to yourself. You don't make yourself become homeless because you want to be homeless. Okay? It's a thought process. It's a mental process. It takes years of abuse and beating people down. You don't want to be homeless. And you don't want to be lonely. It's in us, in the human race. You might need it for seasons of time, but it's in us as a human existence to love and want unity, family, friends, to contribute to society. But what's in alignment with our heart, the center core of our brain, we want to do it our way, not the way that we've been taught to do it. With that being said, with all the stress that I was feeling, let's face it, when I was laying there in Catherine's bed, I had a dream, and I shared this in my videos, but Elvis Presley came to me at Dayton Airport in a jet, and he was waving and stuff, and he invited me. He was coming to take me with him, okay, in that dream. I remember that dream very clearly, and in the presentation of that it looked. For a season of time, since 2010 up to 2012, I had various dreams that had to do with rock stars and stuff. Elvis came to me several times in dreams. Not only did Elvis come to me in dreams, but I ended up writing, because I'm obsessed. Listen, I still am. To me, the Elvis Presley image is a symbol of something that I am extremely drawn to. I'm very attracted to. It does things to my spirit inside that I cannot explain. And, it drives me crazy. I'm very attracted to it. With that being said, my love for Elvis Presley, the image, ended up having me produce a song called Memphis Blues, and also Ragtop Cadillac. That was part of it. I was a big fan of the 50s, and a lot of that was because of the spirit that was alive, that I was attracted to in 50s music especially. Okay, so I don't want to get too much stuck on the Elvis thing. Everybody knows about my Elvis red velvet ice cream art and some spiritual encounters where my lips kissed Sun Studios 4, and all of West Memphis lost its power for approximately 24 to 26 hours. It may, give or take a few, okay? It might have been like 21 and a half, okay? That is a situation that happened that you can either believe or not believe. I believe that my love for Elvis was that strong that it sent an actual signal to the entire, anybody who hears the story, okay? My obsession, that's what it became. As I was drawn to Elvis, my obsession for Elvis, and the desire to, it almost started a relivation, meaning I started to relive a lot of the experiences, the way that I perceived the 50s in my own life, because I was so drawn and so obsessed with Elvis and the music, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, the $1 Million Quartet, that it started to manifest in my own life. And I've done rituals and stuff to try to draw me closer to moments of that time in hopes of having a life that was similar. But I realize now that I do not want exactly what they went through and what their life was. I want my own life. But it's compatible, or I don't want to say it's compatible, it has resemblance to a lot of the elements that are found in that. Okay? With that being said, something ignited in my head, and I started dreaming about, other rock stars. One of them was Dio. When I came back from Las Vegas, because I do Tracilyn, also known as VCAT, Dio came to my room in my dream, He sat down on the bed, and basically, because I was bedridden with my depression and everything like that, it's like he was trying to comfort me, and he left me know that he's sending other people to me. Beforehand, he was so gentle. He looked just like he did as my perception perceived him in his videos and stuff when he would play live. He seemed to speak, and he was very, very kind-hearted, very gentle. Not what you would normally perceive a rock star as being, in my opinion. So it was refreshing, and it was a surprise that it was somebody who was so kind. I was not a huge Ronnie James Dio fan. Obviously, like anyone else, I love rock and roll, and I liked what they had to offer for what it was. But it wasn't I wasn't like such a super fan like other people become fans of other bands and stuff. As he left, he reminded me that my little sign, he told me that he liked that. So I'm assuming he was, like that. Is that the horns? Ronnie James Dio. As they call it, the devil horns. It was like this. So that felt kind of good because I didn't know, is it really Ronnie James Dio that's saying that, or is somebody playing head games with me? But that was something that kind of comforted me, Then the next thing, I realized I was seeing that jerk-off that I met down in Nashville, Tennessee. Back in 2010, I went down to Nashville because I really believed that God was laying it on my heart to go down to Nashville. I was thinking of actually moving there, and the reason that I wanted to move there is because I wanted to connect with other songwriters. I wanted to connect with other musicians. Not necessarily that we're already signed in what they call major labels and stuff, but I wanted to connect with others because I really believed that God was calling me into a rock and roll ministry. Now, the details were not there, but I remember that I actually sat on somebody's, it was either an RV or a tour bus, and we were talking and stuff when I was down there, and I started to realize, more and more that I wanted to go on tour, but it wasn't clear what kind of venues I want to play, what is it that I desire to do. There's so much that this country has to offer that, I don't want to be the kind of person that says, I would do absolutely anything, I'll play wherever. No, I'm kind of realizing as I go through life that the details really do matter. And some people think that it becomes difficult, but I say it becomes much easier the more you know about yourself and what you desire to do. When you're honest to yourself, that's when it kind of pixels in more of a clarity into your mind of how you see yourself and what you want to do. The details with it and all. I ended up, in short, meeting one of the creepiest people in my whole life on the most beautiful night. I explained that as I was walking to the stage, I had my black dress on, which I still have, and heels. And I heard my voice tell me, my own voice, as I was walking towards, I was nervous, of course, but as I was getting ready to step up to the stage and I was walking towards it, I realized if you would have told me that when I was 15 years old, I was really going to be, walking to a Nashville stage to play with other songwriters, like songwriters, not just people playing, no offense to anybody, but these were songwriters, people who wrote their own songs for the most part. And I was going to be doing it in a dress and heels with makeup on and my hair all fluffed up and stuff. I would have never believed it. I would have said, no way would I ever do that. So anyway, it was a beautiful, I love Nashville for what it is to me. I'm kind of nervous about going down there because I had a really bad experience, but all the other experiences were beautiful until I met this sloppy man who was waiting where I got off the stage and I got my guitar and I packed everything up and I'm talking to the other songwriters. The lady Debbie Champion was absolutely gorgeous to me. She's friendly to everybody. Everyone in Nashville was really, really nice. Even this creep that I ended up meeting. And when I did meet him, he invited me to stay at, he welcomed me to stay at a hotel room with him. If I need a place to go, I could go there to rest. And I was not interested at all in that. And what ended up happening later on, in like around October, is I was at my sister's. It might have been the end of September, but it was, I think, like the beginning of October in 2010. I was at my sister's in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, because I was going through a homeless season of my life. I didn't have a home, and I had to keep bouncing around place to place. And I was an adult escort, so I was doing that to stay alive. And in my opinion, by the way, prostitute by man's law is not in alignment with God's law when it comes to prostitution, and therefore the prostitution law made by man should be extinct. It should not even be. You may or may not disagree with that. Eventually I will talk about it. But in alignment with God, it's not synchronized with it, okay? It's their way of controlling people and keeping them poor and living a life of poverty rather than living a beautiful life, okay? It can be a beautiful life by just being yourself. We'll talk about that some other time. With that being said, I ended up going to this creep's house, and while I was there, in my time of desperation, we had a situation that happened where we were talking, and when I was sitting out on the front porch beside of him, or it was actually the back porch. He lived over in Derby, New York, right off of Lake Erie. And when I was talking to him and listening to him, let me caution you about this. Rather than talk, give people sometimes just a few words, some filler sentences in there, and then see how they respond. This gentleman that I'm talking about, Stephen, when I was listening to him talk, he was making fun of people and their demise. Basically, the kind of person that he thought that I was, and I was maybe close to that at that time. He thought it was funny to see people who have dreams, I guess, of being a rock star or a songwriter, and when things don't work out for them, their teeth end up falling out because they're poor. He was making fun of them because they seem to have like a mental illness, or most of them do have a mental illness, or what the world considers a mental illness. And just the fact that he was making fun of people like this, and he even mentioned to the point that they usually end up just killing themselves when things don't work out. The way he would laugh and the way he looked at me when he would say it, I just realized this is not somebody I want to be in a relationship with. So I was there because he told me he was a publisher. He told me he was a producer. And I really wanted to know, is he as serious as I am? I gave him 2 weeks to make up his mind in presenting some kind of contract that would bind us into an agreement for a term as to whether or not he would have a few of my songs published or not. When I realized that he wasn't going to be as serious as what I was, because all he always seemed to want was to suck my private part. That's it. My penis. He just wanted to give me head. And I got to be honest with you, I'm turned off by people who want to focus on a body part. Okay? With what's between my legs. I'm a mental existence, and I was also there on music. And the truth of the matter is, for anybody in the music industry, if you realize the importance to me and my survival in doing what I love to do, know this, that I have no problem. I become more attracted to people that are for my life. And who knows where our relationship could go intimately. The problem is, I'm not for people who just want to use me up and not do anything that's beneficial for my life and existence. This man was a taker. And I realized what he wanted more than anything was my songs, but he didn't want Tracilyn. These are the things that I came to learn. He asked me things like, what do I like to watch? And that's when I realized, because he's supposedly in with the rest of the entertainment industry, is the simple fact that they like to get into your head psychologically through these television shows. Now, why would they do that? For a lot of reasons. There's a long list of reasons that I could share with you on why they do what they do. But know this, they're into mental games. Their goal is to take somebody like me who has amazingly hit songs. Their goal is to take everything, my life from me. They want to take my life from me. And then they want to remove my existence. And then they use the life, whether it's my name, Tracilyn. Look how beautiful it is. Go look and see how beautiful my name is. Go into the trademark office website, the government trademark website, type in Tracilyn, and then see the class 41 for live entertainment. And then look at the class 009 for the way that I style it and I write it on my albums and the way I promote my name. Okay, that's called a trademarked name. It's how I identify, and when that name's written like that, with the angle that it is, in the font that it is, if anybody else were to duplicate that, that would be a lawsuit by me in my favor, which means you could do that too. Okay, we all can do it. The reason that that's there in the government office is for verification of truth that you started off using your name for that class for what it is that you do. If somebody else comes along and uses that specific name in that class, you can sue them and stop them from using that name for that. For if you win the case and you can prove it in court that you started using it first. The reason that you want to trademark everything and copyright your music during its very early stages, whether you're serious or not, is because these people in the music industry know that most people do not copyright their music through the government copyright office. Because of that, when you have a hit song like Ragtop Cadillac, which is going to be the most recognizable rock and roll song ever in history, you watch, you wait, and you're going to see the reason why they want a song like that is because they have power with it. They can transform that song into a dance hit, into the LGBT community. They can divide the song up, re-lyricize it, and put it out there, karaoke, you name it. It is a fortune just in that one song. Not to mention, let's face it, Elvis Enterprise. They own everything Elvis, right? Well, Elvis isn't mentioned in the song, so evidently they're going to think what? They don't want somebody like Tracilyn singing that song, but I can rest assured that they would probably, most likely, want somebody that the world society relates to by the program that they have, right? Could be somebody like Miley Cyrus, could be somebody like Taylor Swift. Who knows who it could be? But know this, that they would rather eliminate me and take the songs. Okay? All of my ideas have been being used, and I found out how they do it. Okay? They do it by invading your privacy. Now, I don't know, but I'm kind of believing that we as humans are something much more than we ever been taught. And in my opinion, very strongly, I know this from my experience, that somehow Stephen C. Johnson has some kind of technology that he can get into my thoughts. He can't control me, but he can get in and tamper with my thoughts to try to cause confusion, and he can keep saying things of opposition in hopes of trying to get me to either kill myself or mess up all my relationships, mess up all my job opportunities, life opportunities in general. Now, they also consumed me in this process, just like now. I got a girlfriend who's calling me that we can kind of hang out with each other. And I wouldn't be sharing with this with you if it wasn't for the fact that I have been being harassed ever since I came out here to Dayton. Actually, it started when I was an escort. And I shared stories about how people would, through psychology, I realized that they would call my phone that I had advertised, and they would make little sounds. They were trying to put me in a trance. And I really do believe that they were trying to lead me into sex slavery, and possibly even into complete death or torture. Okay? It's a very dangerous world to live in, only when you're living in a very small pattern of life in your home and you're going to work and coming back, you don't realize this stuff is existent. It's when you start traveling and you start surviving and you're alone a lot of the time. Then you start realizing that what I call the parasites of the earth will start to become drawn to you. They'll acknowledge you. And I had a whole lot of people that were playing mind games with me. Okay? I also had met with somebody in Wilmington, Delaware, that let me know that there were people that were very dangerous. I got a police officer. We're going to leave this on so I can see what's up. Where's that?
How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm Officer Lynch, 5 Rivers Metro Parks. I just saw you sitting here for quite a while, and I was just checking on, make sure everything's okay.
Okay.
You good?
Everything's all right. Do I look all right to you from over there?
You look fine to me. I just didn't know what. Just checking. We get a lot of activity in here sometimes, and
okay.
Sometimes I found people passed out in cars and things like that.
Okay, I understand.
You look fine to me.
Yeah, I'm doing a YouTube video. You're in it now.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
You have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, he was a very friendly cop. I personally am sick of everywhere I go. I've realized this since being an escort, that it feels like I'm being monitored continuously by officers. Okay, you wouldn't realize that in a patternized life, but they acknowledge when, like he said, you're over here, I want to make sure everything's all right, you're in the car. I've seen other things happen with other people. They're just passed out in the car. Are they doing drugs? Are they drinking? Are they homeless? There's a whole lot of subjects I can touch with that. I personally, because I know I'm all right now. Now, if there was something wrong with me, I'd really love if a cop came over and asked me if everything was all right. But the truth of the matter is, I get that a lot, and I kind of get sick of it. You know, very friendly officer, but I'm kind of sick of, I feel like I'm being harassed by officers of the law. I'm sitting here in a park. It's opened. I'm in my car, and you feel like kind of like you're being approached like you're doing something illegal. So, anyway, very nice cop. I've noticed this about Dayton. Most of the cops in Dayton are very friendly. Thank you, officers, for being friendly. I have been through some stuff with cops in the past, and some of them are very crooked and very scary. I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying that other cops were, and I shared that in my life story. If you don't believe me, go listen to it. Okay, so anyway, while I was in Wilmington, Delaware, somebody had told me some stuff that I've already shared. I'm just going to touch base with this, but they also mentioned that there is a guy by the name of John, and that I should be very careful because he's a very, very evil person. Now, who is this John? I don't know. Is it spelled John as in John? Is it John as in Jon? What is it? I don't know. But here's the thing. I'm going to share with you the next really quick because I want to see about if my girlfriend's going to be available. If she's still in town, I'm going to see her. If not, then I kind of missed her. While I was at Stevens, I decided to leave. Because I realized that he might not be as serious as I am. And my story, maybe someday I'll share you the details of it. But all he wanted to do was suck my dick, you know, in all honesty. And the things that he was kind of talking about in between. And I saw him gossiping with other people that he was bringing over, you know, to the house, inviting over to the house. It's like, I really don't want to be here with this kind of person. It's not the kind of people I want to surround myself with. Now, with that being said, I ended up going through a lot more, and then I was here in Dayton and Huber Heights with my daddy at my daddy's house, who is my spiritual daddy. My father would not accept me as Tracilyn by any means. He didn't accept me anyway. And the gentleman who invited me to stay here in Huber Heights is a person that I met in the cross-dressing community, which I don't want to out them, but I love them very much, and I've realized it even more since I no longer live there with them. But we went through a lot of hard times, and a lot of it was that I could not take care of myself, and I didn't know what true needs were. And I was locked up pretty much through listening to Joyce Myers and Joel Osteen. I was kind of bedridden. I wasn't a student of intelligence, and that couldn't lead me into having a healthy relationship with the household of people I was living with at that time. And I can't wait to explain that to you, because I'm really starting to realize why relationships fail so much rather than grow. Growth is very important in relationships and into developing a healthy relationship with others. Now, when I went back from Huber Heights, I ended up on my computer, not knowing what to do with myself, my life, my circumstances. I have all kinds of mental disorders, if you will, that have developed because of the stress of life, not being able to provide or take care of myself. And the cops approach me now. I have fear, and you see this on camera. You know, how they approach me, even though they're nice. The problem is, why can't I just do something and be happy and not feel like I'm guilty because an officer is walking up to investigate? You know, why is that? Why can't I just live my life, and if I need an officer, I'll yell help or dial 911? You know, I don't want to be smart about it, but the truth of the matter is, that's the way that I was taught. If you need help from an officer, you dial 911 or scream help. But I get more officers coming up to talk to me and investigate me, and I see them looking around in the car. Do I have drugs in here? Do I have alcohol? Nope. Why would I? It's not my thing. But he doesn't know that. But I just don't appreciate it, you know? I really don't. But he's doing his job, and I'm trying to have grace. Mercy. Okay? Who knows what he wrote and what he walked up on already, okay? So anyway, with this being said, whoever the John is, and what he was referring to, I don't know. But I had quite the story of things that happened to me while I was in New Jersey. Spiritual things. Weird things that really happened to me. Now here's the thing. When I went back to Stevens the second time, I ended up going to sleep for a little while. And while he was in working on things, he was always on the computer. Always on the computer. Okay? That's not a turn on to me, and I know most of us live our life now on the computer. Well, I like to be involved in relationships with people who are actively doing things. I really do. I see computer is helpful dramatically, and it's a necessity to a point. But it can also be a life sucker. You know, I like to be around people that are, you know, somehow our lives are physically, we're doing things that are fun, rewarding, and fulfilling. With that being said, I didn't see that in our relationship, and if he's such a publisher, maybe he needs to work out some paperwork or something like that. I don't know what he's doing, but anyway, he invited me up. I realized I didn't like his test to see if I was a crook or not, you know, by laying money around or giving me a sum of money to go do something for him, you know, whether it's a money order or whatever the deal is, a test. I don't like being tested like that, but I understand why people do stuff like that, okay? So I'm not shaming anybody for doing it, but just be aware that some people like to test, and there you go. I personally don't like all the tests, but I understand them. Now, with this being said, I went to sleep the one night, and then that's where at Stephen's house, it was like in a different house, a farmhouse, he insisted that his other house was being sold, but I don't believe it. I believe he still probably lives there. He was just trying to give me the illusion that he was moving. While I was there, I had a dream of John Bon Jovi, who walked me over to like a pond full of water, and there was piranha in it, but they were not doing anything, just lying dormant. And he told me, he said, see, they won't bite you when they're not hungry. I realized he had kind of like a soulless personality when he spoke. There was like no emotion really. And, why he pointed that out in that dream, I don't know. But that's a dream that I had of Bon Jovi. Later on, I also had another dream of him, and I don't know if it was at Stevens or not, or if it was at Huber Heights, but I had a dream, and I was standing in line with somebody at an ice cream truck, and he ended up standing in line behind me, and I don't know if it had to do with vanilla ice cream or not. I don't remember the details right now. I don't want to call it up. That cop was kind of, for to see how nervous you start to get and you're innocent. Why is that? I don't know. But have a sense of humor. Anyway, I'm upset because I had a dream of John Bon Jovi. John Bon Jovi and Bon Jovi was my favorite band as a kid growing up, starting in the mid-'80s when they came out with Slippery When Wet. You Give Love a Bad Name on video on MTV when it was first released. That's when I instantly fell in love with Bon Jovi, the band, and I was huge fan. Everyone who knows me knew that that was my band. With that being said, now all these years later, I'm having dreams about him. I don't listen to Bon Jovi anymore, okay? I grew out of that, and I really got involved into whatever music was popular in country music, etc., etc., etc. We'll talk more about that maybe sometime. I had a dream about him at Stevens with this piranha thing that I explained. I told you about the ice cream. He came up behind me. I was with a friend of mine getting ice cream off of an ice cream truck. I don't remember the details of that right now, but that was a dream that I had with him. And then I had a dream over here at my new apartment where he was actually behind a stage, and he was on the phone with what appeared to be his wife or somebody that was very close to him. I'm thinking girlfriend, wife. So I'm thinking wife. And he was explaining to her that he was gay. Okay? He didn't necessarily look happy. But I do remember walking up and past him in this dream, and I remember that connection told me that more so or not, that Bon Jovi was gay. Okay? So who cares? I heard about that years ago that he actually said he was years ago on the radio. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. And I've got to be honest, I don't care. Okay? I don't care about somebody else's sexual identity. Whatever they like, they like. With that being said, I also had another dream of him afterwards. Like, this was a season while I was working on my music and stuff in my recording studio. He was dressed in a really nice white suit. Okay? And he seemed to be a lot happier, etc., etc. Okay. Now, why am I sharing that? I'm sharing that because I ended up meeting John Bon Jovi in Cincinnati. I shared that video. I don't want to keep talking about it. I didn't come out here to Dayton, Ohio because I wanted to meet Bon Jovi. I heard things about him because I was in the music business for over 7.5 years. When you do that and you're as talented as I am, as an entertainer, I was quite popular. You're going to start being drawn into relationships with people in mainstream music. Or people are going to lead you into relationships with them, at least in passing, to talk and stuff. With that being said, I heard what I heard about a lot of different people, and so it is. It's hearsay. It's not necessarily mean it's true. He seemed like a nice guy when he was face to face. I gave him a business card. He walked away. I acknowledged that it was him. And, I don't know what else to say about it, but I will tell you this. I did realize that things that I was talking about in the privacy of my home, anything to do with me playing musical theaters is what I want to do. I want to play theaters with my life. Well, there's images now of John, what I call him John, by the way, with himself in theaters. Things like Ragtop Cadillac. I had a picture of my promo CD with the Cadillac on it that I bought at Walmart while I was working there years ago. And I transformed that into an image and a picture art to put on my promo CD with Ragtop Cadillac on it. And next thing you know, that this at least the appearance of the car itself similar to it, maybe a different make and model, but similar to it, was somehow what appeared to be his backstage, meaning his stage to concerts. Whether or not that was really true or if it was an image that was created and made up, I've noticed there's a lot of ties into my desires of what I wanted to do, even with the color purple and the songs that I was writing. If you put my lyrics beside a lot of the commercial songs that were released in 2012, maybe even up to now, you can realize that it felt and gave me an appearance that since 2010, when I came out here, while I was writing songs and stuff, I really believe that people have technology or the use of the mind in our human ways that we aren't aware of, and they were invading my privacy and taking the creativeness as I was giving birth to my songs and recording them and stuff. They were taking this information and they were writing albums based off of this stuff. Not necessarily stealing ideas, but so much of like feeding off of it, inspirational to write new songs and stuff like that, and to keep fresh in society's idea. This is what I believe, that people who've been in mainstream, in my opinion, for far too long, they've been in mainstream for years and years and years. Why do you think people who are extremely successful are as successful as they are? And in mainstream, even like Bon Jovi or anybody like that, I'm 45 years old. I gotta go. I'm gonna get going. I have more to talk about in a little bit. A friend just showed up. Bye.